Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to All Things Hadar. We are going to be doing our very first interview, and I'm like really excited that Shai is the person who we are going to be interviewing. It's like how appropriate, right, for the first interview to have one of Hadar's seers here as the interviewee. So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Maureen. And for those of you who may not know Shai, this is Shai. She is from, has Evermind Oracle on YouTube, and also Evermind Tarot on YouTube. And I will put both of those links in the description box below. And you can also check her out in her Etsy shop, which again, will also have the description down below. So I'm going to let Etsy. I'm going to let Shai introduce herself here, and then we'll get going on our interview.
All right. So yeah, I'm assuming a lot of you seeing this probably already know me, but for anyone who doesn't, I sort of accidentally started posting Hadarian content a couple of years ago. And next thing I know, Hadarians started just coming out of the woodwork. And I met so many Hadarians from YouTube and then doing private readings for them. So, you know, mostly I post on YouTube doing, you know, tarot card readings for star seeds and some other type of channeling sometimes. And I do have an Etsy shop where I do, you know, private tarot readings, and kind of growing and expanding on from there. And I just wanted to mention that this, you know, Maureen mentioned that she called me a Hadarian seer, and I just wanted to mention that she was actually the one who activated that part of me. She just happened to mention it one day, and after reading what she said, calling me a Hadarian seer, I sat on my couch for about half an hour with my brain exploding out of the top of my head, like just receiving the download, the activation, and remembering things from Hadar. So that was really incredible. So it's thanks to Maureen that I was even able to like access that type of level of my consciousness. So
Wow. Well, thank you. And that is really cool. And I like the way you said that, because it like really points out how natural that this can happen, because I think a lot of times we have it built up in our head that we have to do these steps and it has to look this way, and you know, I have to go to this person and this person and this place in order for the, and it's not. It can be simply, like you said, somebody just saying something, and they may or may not even realize they're channeling a specific thing, an activation, a download, a healing, whatever that may be, and then it just happens. And I love that you shared that. That's really cool.
yeah, no, that's such a good point. Every single time I've tried to like activate something, it never works. But then when it happens just spontaneously, that's when it works, you know?
Right. Exactly. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump in, and we'll just let this be whatever it's going to be.
All right, perfect.
So the first thing I wanted to ask is if you could just kind of give us like just a basic overview of what Hadar is.
Yeah, so that the first thing I want to clear up is that a lot of the information about Hadar on the internet, it gets the star system confused with the Alpha Centauri star system, because there's an Alpha Centauri triple star system, and then there's the Beta Centauri triple star system, and some of the articles online say that Hadar is Alpha Centauri. They're like our neighbors. They're like a separate group, and you might also be connected with them as well. But Hadar itself is the Beta Centauri star system, also, you know, also called the Hadarian star system. Just they use both names for it, right? So it's a triple star system. There are 3 stars, and you know, astronomers don't know how many planets are there right now, so that's kind of up to us to, you know, travel. I've been able to glimpse at least 3 planets. The main one that I remember, and that most people I connect with remember, is a kind of Earth-like planet, you know, with water and mountains and air and that kind of stuff. And basically, I see Hadar. Once I was activated as a Hadarian seer, I kind of saw its entire like span of history through like eons of time, from when it came down from source, like as a pure ball of light, like coming down from source and kind of existing through multiple dimensions. And that's what's really important, I think, to emphasize, is that when we talk about Hadar, it's like multiple densities, multiple dimensions, multiple timelines. So, you know, there can be many Hadarians like remembering different things, accessing different things, and it's like it's all included, like because it's so vast, right? It's so vast. And the planet that I remember, and that most of my people that I connect with remember, it began really with just the elements like earth, air, fire, and water, and many of us are connected into one or even more of those elements, and it kind of evolved from there, where we had many different types of bodies, and most of us could shapeshift, right? We've been like fairies and dragons and animals and all kinds of different things, and Hadar had this evolution like all through many eons of time, and fluctuating through different types of states of consciousness. But the overarching thing with Hadarian energy, I think everyone's familiar with, is that it's like pure, like ecstatic love, right? Like so high frequency, so excited, to the point that when I tune into Hadarian energy, I start like getting like freaking out, because it's like so, I get like so excited, like that's the phrase, or it's so excited, because my memories of Hadar are like, I couldn't even access low frequency emotions. I was like only like euphoric and ecstatic, like all the time. Like I couldn't do anything else. And so we were kind of holding down that type of frequency, right? This like pure high frequency love and ecstatic type of frequencies. And we were holding that down for so long, right up until the end, when, there was an invasion. And everyone, I think, is kind of familiar with the fall, right? When the planet was invaded and lots of different things happened, and different people had different experiences about what happened during the fall. But really over and over and over, I received these messages and these different types of understandings about how the fall ultimately had to happen, because it's part of the harmonizing of polarity, right? Because Hadar was very polarized to be love and light. So ultimately we have to harmonize that with, the other side of the pole, and also to send us all off on our soul's journeys to go have different types of experiences, and ultimately end up here on Earth and do whatever it is we're doing here. So very generally, that's my basic overview of how I see Hadar.
Yeah, I like the fact that you pointed out that things are so layered, in the sense of, and I don't know about anybody else, but I know for myself, when I first started my journey, I took so much to heart what somebody would tell me, and it'd be like, well, I can't be right because they said, and it was like, no, no, I was right. I was right in seeing that, or, knowing that, or whatever the case may be. And I also find it interesting, because I feel like, almost like when you had said how, we had to kind of like get off of Hadar so that we could go start doing some other things to grow and evolve, right? And to me, the first thing I thought about was that was, I don't know, I guess I kind of have this feeling like of, it's almost like, well, because we had to go do that, it's like, well, fine, then I guess I'll go do it multidimensionally all at the same time, and that we don't do that all at once, and be done. But I mean, even in our ongoing process, that it's that multi-dimensional way of growing and evolving.
Yeah. No, I'm on exactly the same page as you. When I first had my awakening and started reading like channeled material, I was like, oh, well, they channeled it, so therefore that's the one and only truth, right? And now I just see everything. It's like this and that and that and that and that, just depending on like where it's coming from and how you're looking at it. So it's just always adding to the bigger picture.
Right. And I think, I feel like Hadarians, that needs to be something to just be aware of. Yeah. Because especially as we're starting out in our journeys, because I mean, let's face it, there are various different challenges that Hadarians seem to have in common is part of being a Hadarian characteristic or a Hadarian trait, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think it's, it's all wrapped up in there. It's like, you
for sure.
Give yourself a break and understand that, it's what it is for you, and that's what's right for you. And
no, and especially like since I started making YouTube videos, I always worry that someone will take something I say like too seriously, because someone like I could remember something about Hadar and someone else could remember something completely differently. And I mean, both can be right, because they could be remembering like a different dimension or a different timeline or like a whole different thing. And it's not about having to remember the same thing, right? Because it can be all of it all at once.
Right. I remember, I can't remember who I was talking to, but I do remember speaking with someone about Hadar itself. And I remember a lot of people were surprised that I'm fire because it seemed like everybody only remembered water, and I don't have a memory of water, you know.
Yeah.
And somebody said to me, but how do you reconcile that in your mind? And it's like, well, for one, I don't have to reconcile it. I am, and that's what I am, and that's what I was, and that's what I'm moving as in this particular place and space that I'm in right now. For one, and for two, I mean, think about our own planet that we're currently on as the example. I mean, we may all be humanoid, but that doesn't mean that we all look the same, sound the same, feel the same way, have the same experiences. You know, it's so different from one side of the planet to the other, from the north to the south within the same continent, you know, to the east to the west. It doesn't matter. It's very different, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I actually remember before I met you, I remember thinking that Hadar didn't have like any warriors, right? That we like were just completely like the invasion came and we couldn't defend ourselves, right? And then I met you and I was like, oh my God, she's a Hadarian warrior, like fire energy, right? And I was like, that's so amazing. And the reason I didn't know about that before I met you is because like that was completely like outside of my experience. Like I couldn't access that because I didn't have that in me, right? So I had to meet someone else who has that in them in order to even see it. So
right.
Yeah.
And I think with meeting you guys, so many of you who were water in it, actually helped me in the sense of, because I have so much fire that is that part of me, right? It's almost like having that water element come in when I'm with you guys as a group, you know. And when I say with, obviously we mean this way, you know, because I don't know if any of us have met in person, but like you said, it's like you start feeling all that energy and everything, right? But for me, the water kind of helps, even though everybody's like, man, you have so much energy. And it's like, oh, you have no idea, because when I'm with you guys, it's like, okay, calm down. It's flowing and it's cool as in temperature, cool as in movement and flow, which is very different than how I feel when like I'm by myself or around other people and I get excited, because then it's just like through the roof, you know, like you said, it's just like, so it's a very different experience. Yeah. Okay. So, if we could now, I'd like to kind of shift more to your personal experiences, like, you know, like when you talked about receiving those downloads and stuff. And again, because everybody's in a different place and space of their journey, you know, there may be some out there that are just starting and really trying to make heads or tails out of what they think, feel, know, sense, smell, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so it's interesting because if anybody watching this is like just starting out on their spiritual journey, I completely relate to that, because about 3.5 years ago, I would have still called myself an atheist. I didn't believe in any of this. I didn't believe I had a soul, none of it, right? Like, and then I had a big starseed awakening, which if you want to hear about that, I did a video on that on my YouTube channel, just my starseed awakening story. So I won't get too much into that, but a couple of months after my general spiritual awakening experience, my first big download is actually what connected me with Hadar. So Hadar was like the first big thing that came through for me. And that's why and it really, I think that was the case because Hadar is like one of my soul's like origin points. It was like where I landed when I hit this universe, right? Like I landed in Hadar. So it was really interesting and really, really immersive. I was just kind of sitting around and I was just kind of like putting it out there, like asking the universe, like, send me something, like, give me something. I want to like feel something, experience something. I want to know that I'm not crazy. I want to have a real experience here. And I put on a song that was designed specifically to connect you with your like starseed family. And I grabbed a tarot deck, which was also like a starseed themed deck. And I just like started flipping cards like on the coffee table. And I could just felt this sparkly energy just like sparkle in around me. And I could like feel this like whooshing. It felt like all these girls were like whooshing around me, giggling. I almost mistook them to be fairies. The Hadarian energy can be pretty similar to fairies. So that these beings who like were sparkling and whooshing around me, I call them my Hadarian guides for simplicity's sake, but really I consider them my sisters. Like when I'm thinking to myself, they're my Hadarian sisters. And they like surrounded me, and I couldn't see them because I'm, even to this day, like I'm not very visual, right? So I could just sense them around me. And then I closed my eyes and I could just see being on another planet, being literally water, like being part of the water. And then like I could turn myself into like a little star-shaped blob of water, and I was like skating around on top of the water, like right out of Fantasia, if you remember that old Disney movie. And I just remember the really most significant thing about it is that I could remember being part of a collective, like on a completely psychic, telepathic level. Like I could feel like hundreds and thousands of my sisters, like all part of my own consciousness. We were still like individual bits of consciousness, but we were like completely connected, feeling each other's feelings, thinking each other's thoughts. And this was like a really, really visceral experience, to the point where I was still sitting on my couch, but I wasn't really seeing the room anymore. I was just gone, right? I was just gone. And then the song ended, and I kind of came back to myself and was just like, it was just so visceral and so real that I had to understand it as real. There was like no other option for me, because it was just so vivid. And the feeling of my sisters around me, it was like I could just like remember that, like that is what it's supposed to feel like. That is what it was supposed to feel like. So that was my first big like download and Hadarian experience, and that set me on the path, basically.
Right. When you so when you like, I guess I first should ask, like, do you tune into like Hadar like on a regular basis, or is it just like when something comes up?
So typically, like in general, I tend to flow like between different energies, like even by the day, or it could be. So I'm pretty much go with the flow. So when after that first experience, it was like a lot of Hadarian energy for several months, and then it went away. And actually for the past few months, I've hardly been feeling Hadarian energy at all, but obviously over the past couple of days, it's been like ramping back up again. So it comes and goes. Sometimes I do like deliberately tune in, and I can reach that. But what I've really noticed about tuning into my Hadarian sisters specifically is that they're like so high frequency that if I'm not already like in a really good mood and like high vibing and like feeling it, I can't like sense them. I know they're still there, but I can't really sense them, right? Because they're higher in frequency than like the other beings I connect with. Like Assyrians I can connect with pretty easily because they're kind of more on our level, but the Hadarians are like way up there, like so ecstatic that if I'm not up there as well, I can't really hear them. So
Right.
yeah.
So when you I guess that kind of prompts me to ask the question of, have you like either spontaneously or purposely traveled to Hadar, and meaning like after the fall, and sensed anything about Hadar itself?
That typically that happened for the first time for me with one of my sessions with you, actually. You took me to Hadar and you guided me, and I think others, it was a group thing. You guided us to ground into the core of Hadar, which I'd never tried before. And that was like really profound for me. And I could see kind of like the kind of desolation, right? Like there's no more trees, no more grass or anything, it's just rocks. And I could kind of see that. So that was a really significant experience. I'm not really like super good at astral travel when I'm awake. But I do, like when I'm doing readings for Hadarians, that's when I get tons of stuff coming through. Like it's incredible, the stuff I can see when someone else brings in their energy, and I can kind of see like, bits and pieces of their soul's history on Hadar, and I can see like what happened to them during the fall. Not necessarily all of their lives, because most Hadarians could have like thousands and thousands and thousands of Hadarian lives, right? But I get like the highlights, right? I basically get the highlights. So when I'm doing a tarot reading for Hadarian, I'm kind of like half there, but it's typically going to the past. That's really interesting to actually astral travel there now. That might be something I start doing. I haven't really done a lot of that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, every time that I've gone there, I've always been there to fulfill and do a specific function.
Yeah.
Like, after the fall. right? So there's
Yeah.
been a lot of work. Well, there's been a lot of work that I've done in the last year or two. So yeah, it is very different, but it is a very unique experience. So yeah, maybe give that a shot, because I think you'll enjoy, because even though it's and it's in its process of being rebirthed now
Yeah.
anyway. And yeah, it's still, even though the first time I went there and it was like desolate, right? It was, I could just feel that hum of the core of the planet itself. It was just, I don't know, I can't describe it. It was just this amazing hum that I could just.
Oh, I can feel it as you're describing that. I'm like getting shivers up my back. And now that you mentioned that, I think I do remember, I don't remember what I was doing. Maybe it was a YouTube video, but I remember like tuning into how like Hadar is like, it's healing right now, like it's happening and like everything's going to be great, right? So there's like nothing more to worry about. The healing is like absolutely on track and on the way. I remember that coming through very strongly at some point.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear, because yeah, that's another whole video for me.
On the work.
Yeah, that's another thing there. So I guess for as far as like any of our our viewers, when you're talking about Hadar itself, whether it's about remembering who they were then, which I'm a big supporter of. It's not about staying stuck in the past. It's not about romanticizing the past, but it is helpful to have some clarity so that we can bring to our conscious awareness of okay, I understand now why I see this in my life now, or why I feel this way or believe this way. So now I can heal that and let it go, so that I can move forward in a higher vibration and in a healthier space, right? Whether that's your goal is to move in that space in whatever capacity, right? But it is about letting go of stuff. So I guess, is there pointers or anything that you would like suggest to somebody of, hey, you may want to try this or that when it comes to connecting with their Hadarian self and their past, their history, to heal their now and their future?
Yeah. No, that's such a good point, because over and over and over again, like for myself and for basically all of the Hadarians I've done readings for, there's always some theme that like something that's playing out in our life right now, it's from something that happened to us, like typically during the fall of Hadar, right? And it's like like that wound goes that far back. So, I mean, if you're basically, if you're struggling with like a pattern, right? Some kind of pattern that is just always, always, always bothering you in your life, I would actually put it out to like your Hadarian guides, right? Because even if you can't feel them, like they're there, right? They're there. They made it very clear to me that even when I can't sense them, they're like constantly around all of us, right? Like put it out to them and ask, like, help me see, help me understand, like what happened to me, right? Like what happened to me? How is this rooted in this old wound? And yeah, like Maureen said, it's not about like, fixating on the thing that happened to you, but I've really found that once we kind of can get a glimpse, and it's not really necessarily about like specifically remembering very specific past life things, because maybe it's not good for you to like remember what happened to you, right? Maybe that's too traumatic. Maybe you just don't need to see that, right? So, but you can get the feeling, of it. You can just kind of get the energetic memory of it, and you can just go, okay, like those kind of feelings, those came up for me, like, during the fall of Hadar, those kind of feelings, that's kind of what I felt, that's what I experienced. And you can just focus on those feelings and go, okay, now that I like know that this pattern in my life goes all the way back to this like past life from like way a long time ago, like how can I work through like releasing that like wound or the trauma or however that played out for you, like finding closure on that. And what I found is that, our Hadarian collective, they will guide you through that, but it will be, subtle, right? It'll be subtle, especially if you don't necessarily like, talk telepathically to them. And I don't typically either, right? It's a very subtle thing because they're coming down from such a higher level that it's very subtle, and it will be signs and synchronicities and feelings and sensations. So once you put it out there, I find that it does come through if you're just willing to kind of open up and walk through it with them. So.
Right. I think too, sometimes it is so subtle that we can have something come to us and we're like, oh, that was such a good idea. And we go do that, or, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah. And we don't even realize that it's something that we've received as a download or as a channel or you know what I'm saying? It just.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, when you have that, oh, like that idea, yeah, it's a lot of time that's coming in from your guides or your star family somewhere. So yeah.
Yeah, I know when I first started my journey, it was like, and I laugh because it's like, I don't know, is that a fire thing or is that just a people thing? You know, a humanoid thing of the whole, okay, guys, you're gonna have to turn up the volume because my energy is already like all the way over here. And if you're gonna turn it all down and be all subtle, I ain't gonna get it. So I need the neon sign flashing in my face to tell me, hey, this is for you. And it worked. I mean, things became more pronounced so that I became more aware. And now, of course, it's not like that anymore because I've learned to work with my energy more frequently than letting it be all crazy.
Yeah, no, you are right that if you really do need a clear sign, like they will deliver. I remember one time, because normally I can only feel my Hadarian sisters when I'm vibing high, right? But one day I was down in the dumps, I was sitting there trying to meditate, and I was just asking like why do I feel like this, right? Like, what's my problem? And I heard them whisper in my ear. And for me, that is very uncommon. I'm not like constantly hearing whispers in my ear. Usually it's the subtle, right? Usually it's the subtle, but they came down and they whispered in my ear and they said, your lower chakras are damaged. And I was like, wow, that is very specific. And that was like out loud, literally in my ear. I could hear them all whispering right in my ear. And I was like, they must have really made an effort to like bring their energy way down in order to get through to me. Like, and that's because I was really down low, right? And so I was so grateful because like they really like that was really them extending a hand and really telling me what I needed to know. So
Right. And as you were talking and saying that, like I'm looking at your face, but these eyes are seeing your face, but this eye, I'm seeing your brain.
oh yeah.
And it was literally like, it's not so much about having to hear it, not just you, but I mean, you know, people, but it's almost like it was an activation of something in your brain to allow for that telepathic communication, and that by exercising that more frequently, we can get stronger in our telepathic abilities with our higher Hadarian guides. Instead
Yeah,
of them
I think
trying
that
to
was
come
about
down, it's us kind of going up there.
yeah. Yeah, no, you're really right. Because I think that was about 2 years ago. And like slowly, like my, clairaudience or whatever, like it is more like every month it's more than it was. So it does slowly unfold. You just got to be patient.
Yes, there's that word, the temperance card, one of my most frequently appearing cards there. So when you have, and again, this is, very general sense, right? So you mentioned how you have a lot of people who come to you for readings that are Hadarians as well as those who are not. But for the ones that are Hadarian, is there like a theme of some sort that seems to stand out to you as just something to mention? He's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So this, just to be clear, like I definitely see trends with Hadarians, but none of them are universal. So like if you're listening to this and go, this doesn't resonate with me at all, don't worry, there's exceptions to every single one of these. But the one I see absolutely the most is like damaged relationships, like Hadarians being, so many of them being like repeatedly getting into abusive relationships and just having that kind of thing happen like over and over and over again and really struggling to get out of that cycle. That's the big one. And for most, it comes down to damaged lower chakras, really. For most, it's damaged solar plexus or sacral chakra, depending on kind of which way you're going with it. But yeah, that is a huge theme.
Yeah. And when you were saying that, it was, bring it back around. What was it? Because you had said something earlier and the same thought came to me. Oh, was just this a practice, if you will, and there's beliefs behind that practice that stem from, I'm sure, a variety of ways, but I feel like a lot of it is from Hadarian characteristics and traits and history and all that.
Oh, yeah.
This not letting go, right? So
Mhm.
we stay in these relationships and we get into these relationships because we're not letting go of what was. And it's like,
Mhm.
even when we're really uncomfortable and we really don't like something, but we understand it because we know it, because we've been in it so much.
Yeah.
And we don't have that whole thought process of, oh, I think I'm going to go find an abusive relationship today because, well, that's what I do. And we don't realize that many of us carry that kind of pattern because we don't want to let go of what's
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's that, like, so much of it is that Hadarian thing of, being so loving, being so compassionate and like so sensitive. So it's like always being able to understand the other person's perspective. And really, even if we think of, Hadarians were there, and I mean, then the various groups of invaders kind of came and we met them with love, right? And we were like, well, hey, you're people too. Let's all love each other, right?
Right.
And then obviously that ended horribly. And so it's even like, so Hadarians getting into bad relationships is even like playing out like the entire Hadarian like collective invasion, fall, all of it. It's like playing that out on a personal level. So it's really intense. It's a huge topic.
Right, right. Well, and again, at the core, you just, you hit on it so beautifully there of that unconditional love.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a challenging piece to the journey of for a Hadarian to not just learn, but to truly take to heart and understand that whole concept of um, unconditional love doesn't equal being unconditionally abused and
Yeah.
repeatedly. That you can give somebody unconditional love with boundaries, and it
Yeah.
still is unconditional. If somebody is giving you respect, the two-way street, the healthy relationship,
Hmm.
well, then you're in a good place and you can love them. And a lot of people seem to not understand that unconditional love doesn't mean that they have to be in your life, right? We can
Yeah.
still love somebody and let them go because it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah, that's something I've been getting a lot of messages about lately. It's like learning to unconditional love that is also non-attached, right? Being able to just send the unconditional love out there, just send it out there, and not not even to have that person in your life like at all, right? Or just people you don't even know, right? And I've been starting to understand that that's part of the high heart chakra. So when you start to get into that level of being able to have unconditional love in a non-attached way, that's when your high heart is like healing and coming back online. And that is going to be like, as more Hadarians activate their high heart, that's going to be like massively healing for like the entire Hadarian collective thing, because that's
Right.
getting us back to like where we were, right?
Yeah, definitely. Which, and these are all these different little nuances, and I'm sure many, many more are all
Yeah.
things that I so look forward to, you know, offering those kinds of things here on the channel to, just be able to have us come together and let's just let it be what it's going to be, but do that ground and connect, do that meditation and that visualization to clean up and clear out stuff and just be free.
I'm
But
so
with
excited.
boundaries.
So excited to see the stuff that you post here. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too, because it's so much more fun when we're all together.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess if it's okay with you for at this moment to just kind of um, ask if you are in a place and space to step into that Hadarian seer position. um, and just I guess one of the questions I'm wondering about is I'm wondering how is the revitalization, the rebirthing of our Hadarian system going?
It's interesting. As soon as you said that, I like took a deep breath, and what I'm seeing is the 3 stars sitting, like I see them in like a triangle. I'm seeing like a beam of light coming out of each one of them, and they're meeting in the middle. And it's like generating something in the middle of the three stars. I don't know. To me, that feels actually connected to the high heart. It's almost like the stars themselves are, I don't know if it makes sense to say that like they're evolving and they're ascending. But whatever it is they're doing, it's like supporting us and our high heart activation and like rehabilitation. So it's going hand in hand, right? Hand in hand as like we heal and evolve. So does the whole collective, the whole star system and the whole collective heals and evolves. So yeah, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Awesome. Thank you. And I don't know, maybe this is me being biased for Hadar and Hadarians, but or maybe it's just my experience from my own journey. But either which way is just this. I can't even say it's a belief. It's almost like just like it's intertwined with my very breath of literally feeling the feelings of the Hadarian system. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, because that's like how my Hadarian sisters, how they like communicate with me. It's like through feelings, and like sometimes I get so excited I can't even like stay in my body. I'm like freaking out, so excited, right? It's just like feeling that excitement. So yeah, no, I get what you mean about feeling the feelings of like the whole collective.
Right, and it's like it's quite literally like each star within the system, each planet within the system. And I would even go so far as to say the moons and the suns that are within that system, they each have a very distinct feeling. It's not just a vibe. It is a vibe, but there's this, I don't know, there's this bond and connection in a healthy way, obviously. But I mean, it's almost like I may not know their names. And sometimes, it's like I may not be able to see the oh, this one's blue and this one's green, or whatever. But they have a very distinct individual feeling and vibe. That makes sense?
Yeah, I think in terms of the stars themselves, you would know a lot more about that than me, because I know you can like feel the stars a lot more than I am, because like fire, right? That's where you're at. And I feel planets a lot, like I'm more on that level. I mean, because I'm also like earth, I'm like earth and water energy. So for the three stars, I basically agree, but I don't know about the other two. I'm basically mostly tuned into one of the stars, and most of my memories are from one of the planets that would have been orbiting that star, I guess. And I know that you're also connected to that star, and that most of the people I connected were all from that kind of one star. But so I suspect that there's like these other Hadarian groups out there on the internet that I haven't really encountered, and that they're probably vibing like with those other stars, other groups, right? And maybe at some point we all come together. I don't know.
yeah, that's exciting to think about, though. That's exciting to think about. Okay, well, I guess before we close off, I would just like to ask if there's anything that you would like to talk about or anything that you wanted to share before we go.
Oh, I think I'll just say that we are recording this on the Pisces full moon of 2022. And it's interesting. I'm really glad we pulled this off, because Mercury is going retrograde today. I was wondering, I was like, but maybe that'll just like open up the throat chakra, right? But so I just wanted to say that, no matter when you're watching this in the future, like whenever you're watching this and whatever's happening, like you're here with us in this like transcendent Pisces portal. And I just kind of expected this to be like, okay, I'm going to come on here, I'm going to chat with Maureen, it's going to be really fun. But actually behind the scenes, we have done a ton of energy work today. I was feeling it all morning before I sat down, and I was actually crying. Like I was really emotional. There's like the Pisces full moon, right? There's been like emotions going on. And at first I didn't really know what was happening. And I realized that all the Hadarians that ever watch this, I mean, even if you're watching this 20 years from now and you've somehow dug this up, right? You were all here in one vortex. Like we're all, I can feel my sisters, they're all freaking out. They're giving confirmation, right? So we're all here in this vortex, like through space and time. And it's really special to me that it's the Pisces full moon, because I'm actually a Pisces North node, and we're doing this like right. So this is like a big culmination, like a big, I'm seeing it kind of as like a birthing moment, like a rebirthing moment. And this is going to ripple out like through the years as people slowly come to this video. And it's a coming together. It is a throat chakra and high heart activation. And something is being transcended. So I would actually invite anybody, if you would like to set the intention. If there's anything you want to leave behind you, if there's anything you want to drop, go ahead and set the intention to drop it, because right now we're like portaling up through something altogether. Whenever you connect with this video, this is a big like ascension moment, if you will, if you want it to be. So
awesome. So I'm just going to throw out there, and if you have the time, that we just do a pause for a moment, and I'll run some stuff quietly, and just for us to focus on just being and in the moment.
yeah,
Okay,
no, I would
so
love
I'll
that.
be
That would be
quiet
great.
for a minute, but
Yes.
feel free to join us, and yeah, just take a few deep breaths and allow yourself to just get really grounded and connected. And we're going to do a dual grounding. So we're going to be grounded here, yes, but we're also grounding to the core and the heart of Hadar. And I'm just going to be quiet now, and I'm going to do my work, and you just allow yourself to have your experience. So I'd like to invite you now to just take a few deep breaths, coming fully back into your body, fully present, fully aware. Whenever you're ready, open your eyes. So feel free to come back and listen to this anytime you like. It's always here for you. And yeah, until next time, Shai, thank you so much for joining us and offering us your insights. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Maureen, and thank you everyone who ever sees this. And Maureen, I'm supposed to remind you to save the recording.
Yeah. Save the recording. Don't hit stop. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And so glad you're here, whether it's now or in the future. And yeah, best of to everybody. Bye.
Bye.